This is the heart of San Diego. The history of this area is told by significant San Diegans who have made or are making a difference in this community. The Heart of San Diego is brought to you by the San Diego Foundation, the Center for Charitable Giving, and the San Diego Historical Society, where our history comes alive. So good to see you. I'm Fred Lewis. This is the Heart of San Diego. The history of our community is told by men and women who really have made a difference. We're brought to you by two very good organizations, the San Diego Historical Society, where our history comes alive, and of course the San Diego Foundation, creating a spirit of giving in San Diego. Our guest this evening certainly has left his mark in history, particularly in the racket sports. He's Dr. Bud Muehleisen. He's a San Diego native, a dentist who is internationally known in the area of racket sports and is considered to be the father of racquetball. Dr. Bud earned 69 racquetball titles, 7 paddleball national titles, was a CIF tennis doubles champ and 11th Naval District badminton champ in singles and doubles. His company, Dr. Bud's Court Systems Incorporated, installed over 3,000 courts throughout the world. He built, owned, and operated 7 racquetball facilities and wrote the official rules of racquetball in 1969. Dr. Muehleisen has practiced dentistry in San Diego since 1959 and is the dental chief of staff at Grossmont Hospital. A former San Diego high school baseball player, he's been active in coaching girls fast-pitch softball and saw his girls win 3 league championships while coaching at Grossmont High School, and there's more to the story too. But let's start with Mercy Hospital in 1939, Dr. Bud. San Diego all the way.
Yes, born in Mercy Hospital, Fred, yes I was.
What kind of little kid were you?
Well, I was an only child, people, there's a connotation with that that's bad, but my mother made me do everything, and I had wonderful parents, and I think I was a good kid. I never got in trouble.
Hold that picture for a second. That's Bill Cowling, who started Dixie Line Lumber on the left, and Dr. Bud Muehleisen on the right, and this was in North Park.
Yes, we lived next door to each other, and we were both...
Louisiana Street?
Yes, the last block across from the tennis courts, and we were like brothers because we even dressed alike, like that picture shows, and very, very good friends to this day.
But how did you get interested in sports and racket sports in particular?
Well, I was interested originally in just sports in general, but growing up across the street from the Morley Field, the tennis courts, I got very interested in tennis, but it was an interesting thing. At the time, everybody was playing at University Heights, which are only 3 courts there. And
that's where Maureen Conley learned how to play.
And that was one of my competitors. Grew up with Maureen. We'd play every day after school, and Wilbur Folsom was the draw. And there was the baseball there. Ted Williams lived across the street, and then finally Wilbur Folsom moved to Morley Field, and so it was closer to my house. So I kind of grew up with a racket in my hand, if you will.
What did you want to be while you were growing up?
Had no idea, Fred. I went to Cal at Berkeley on a athletic scholarship for baseball, and had no idea what I wanted to be. My father was a dentist, but he never pushed me. My parents never pushed me into dentistry, and I'll never forget signing up. You had to check on what your major was, and I didn't know and what to check, so I checked pre-dental, and as it turned out, it threw me in with tough academic courses there and everything, and then I pursued it and finally made it.
Favorite hobbies as you were a kid growing up? You played music.
Yes, I had music from day one. Piano, mother started me early, and piano. And then I played in Bonham Brothers Boys Band, and that whole group of guys there was in Bonham Brothers Band. And we played together 4 to 6 years. And then as we were in high school, we got a swing band, and we would play maybe 3 weekends out of the week with the school dances and all over town. I played clarinet and sax in the band, and I've always had music all my life. Love it.
Did you have any heroes growing up?
No, other than sports heroes. I remember my room was wallpapered with baseball players. Football wasn't too big at the time. I had all the baseball players. I knew everybody's batting average. I was kind of a walking encyclopedia, and later did play baseball myself.
San Diego High School. See the years, he graduated about
49.
49, so about 46 to 49. Here's the basketball team. And
No, that's the baseball team.
oh, the baseball team
Yeah.
there. Okay.
That was the post-6 American Legion team.
Where are you? You're
I'm right here. Right here.
and you're in the back row.
In those days, there was no Little League or anything. It was strictly American Legion, 16 and under. And so Mike Morrow, the coach on the front right there, who was a classic coach in this county. And we went all the way to the national finals that year and had a wonderful time, and then went on and we won everything in high school.
What was your best position, Bud?
I played outfield and pitched.
Here's a basketball picture.
Yes, that'll...
It says, back in shape after being laid up with a bad back. Okay.
Yep, the only real injury I had, that was just a senior year, I think, at San Diego High School. Played for Merrill Douglas, and I was blessed with wonderful coaches all my life, even in junior high. And
how good was the team?
well, we won it all, and in those days, Fred, the competition, San Diego and Hoover were such powerhouses that they formed we couldn't play the local teams in those days. We were so strong. Remember, I was at San Diego High, and there was no Lincoln, there was no Morse, there wasn't Chula Vista, there wasn't any of those schools yet. And so they formed a Coast League, which included San Diego, Hoover, Compton, Pasadena, and John Muir up in Pasadena. And that was a tough, tough league, and it was a traveling league, and traveling in those days was all by bus. So we really had a lot of competition, but we were strong, very strong.
Strong baseball, football, and basketball.
Everything. There were CIF and everything.
Darren Johnson was playing baseball.
After me, he was after me. This was a picture of our
There's
basketball
Bud in the
team.
blue and the circle there.
Yes, and then you'll see the back row, third from the right, is Charlie Powell. Many people know his name. Great athlete, great friend. Merle Douglas was our coach, and great athletes. Eddie Simpson, who went on and started at USC, and others. Joe Kutry, I can see them all. They were great guys.
Joe Kutry married into the Alicio family.
Yes, he did. Still is. Yes.
And wonderful people, and Jim DeCaro,
yeah,
a classmate of yours who you lost recently.
Close friend. Yes, he was a class guy.
From San Diego High School in '49, you went up to Berkeley for a couple of years, and then into the service.
Right.
For a couple of years.
Like I said, I went up there on baseball scholarship.
By the way, you kept on with tennis, too, because you were a CIF doubles champ at San Diego High School.
Well, tennis, I played tennis all high school. I played 3 varsity sports in high school, which was tennis, basketball, and baseball. Interesting note there, playing tennis and baseball, which ran concurrently, I would travel, and I would always go play tennis first, and then they would have a car for me and rush me back to baseball diamond. I'd usually get there by 4th or 5th inning. And it was tough because, as you know, tennis, Fred, it's very hard to blow somebody off the court. Sometimes you get in real trouble trying to do that. But it was fun, and but I did play baseball at Berkeley, and then what happened at Berkeley was that the Korean War came along, and they took all the athletes and put them in had us join the Naval Reserve. They did that at all the universities almost. And
you toured for a while with Traybert and Flam.
Right. We were together, and we had to play each other in table tennis and badminton and tennis. And then touring with Herbie and Tony Traybert was really fun because those two were becoming finalists at the Open in Wimbledon. And in fact, one of Tony's claim to fame was he won, while he was in the military, he won Wimbledon and the U.S. Open and never lost a set. And those were 3 out of 5 set matches.
He was a great athlete and strong as a bull at that time.
Wonderful guy, yeah. One of the first guys to hit a topspin backhand, which sounds funny talking about it now, but when you have a small head-sized racket, it was very difficult to do with little wooden frame rackets.
Shame but Flam. I guess he's really had a lot of
Yes, he's deceased now too.
Yes.
He is deceased, and Herbie was quite a character.
A gambler, a fun guy.
Everything, gambler, fun, and we were all together in the Navy here. It was fun.
How much time did you get to serve in San Diego?
The whole time. I was here the whole time, and what happened during the Korean War, that everybody went in the military, and the services just got loaded with athletes. So athletics in the 11th Naval District became a big thing. And Tay Brown was the commander in charge of it. And to remind you how strong we were, they combined the NTC MCRD teams in football, and they played the Rams in an exhibition game that year. That's how, because all the pros were in the service.
Back to Berkeley to get your degree, and then to the, what was the name of the dental school?
At the time it was called the University of, College of Physicians and Surgeons. Now it's affiliated with the University of Pacific. Has been for years. Wonderful dental school.
Got your dental degree about 59, was it?
Correct, 1959.
And started practicing here in San Diego.
Yes, I passed the day I passed the state board. They had me booked 2 weeks solid at my dad's office. I was my father's 13th associate, and he was a wonderful guy and a wonderful dentist.
Bud Muehleisen, how did racquetball come into your life? Because you became the father of racquetball.
Well, I had just started my dental practice in '59, and about a year later I wandered over, my father's office was in East San Diego. I wandered over to the Copley Y and went to the handball courts, and I saw a friend down there playing with a wooden paddle. They were playing paddleball. And it looked like a good exercise that I could do on my lunch hour, so I took it up in about 1962 and played paddleball from '62 to '69.
And became a champion.
I won, 7 national titles in singles and doubles, and then along came racquetball, and that it wasn't even racquetball then. It really had no name, but it was being played a lot of places, and they decided that they would have this first national championship. It was held in St. Louis. About 250 came, and it was a very, very unique tournament because they didn't know how to seed anybody, because everybody was a state champion who was there or had never been beaten or whatever. And
you were the winner.
Yes, I was fortunate, in fact, to beat a very good friend of mine, Charlie Brumfield. He was from San Diego also. He's was a protege at the time. He's went on to become a great player, and I barely beat him in the finals.
In 1972, you play against Haber, who was the greatest handball player of his era, and you were the best racquetball player, and this was the great racket against hand matchup. And tell us about that match that Sports Illustrated wrote so much about.
Well, it was an interesting match. We wanted to get more exposure for both sports, and we thought, well, if we play hands against the racket, maybe we can do something. On the surface, it sounds like it's not going to even be a close contest, but you got to remember that you're using a handball, and it's very hard to control a handball with a string racket. And Paul Haber was quite a character. He just died this last year, but at the time he was a 5-time national champion. And we played 2 matches. Our first one, the one covered by Sports Illustrated, was played in Memphis. The second one was played at the opening of Ben Agajanian's club in Long Beach, and we each won 1.
Before we take a quick break, here's you playing paddleball as a national champion, 1967, 1968, and a good shot of you.
Yes, and that was
a paddle with holes that you designed.
Yes, there was a wooden paddle. The original paddles were solid wood, and I designed that, which is still going to this day, put holes in it so it would have a faster head speed.
Program is the Heart of San Diego. Our guest, Dr. Bud Muehleisen, and he's talking about racquetball and other racket sports and his impact on, frankly, the world in racquetball and other sports. My name is Fred Lewis, and we're brought to you by the San Diego Foundation, which teaches us how to give, building a tradition of giving in San Diego. And of course also the San Diego Historical Society, where our history comes alive, and there's so many activities at the San Diego Historical Society. Bud, here you are making an appearance with Mickey Mouse at a sporting goods show in Anaheim, and you became a consultant in sports equipment, Dr. Bud Sports Courts, and you traveled the world and opened and designed some 3,000 facilities around the world. Tell us about this phase of your life.
Well, actually, the facilities weren't that many, but we built that many courts. They were in facilities, and took it to a number of countries, Japan, Australia, and each one of those is a story. Having played in Australia, I had to play an exhibition with Kenny Rosewall. I'm sure you've heard that name.
Of course.
But that particular shot with Mickey Mouse was nothing more than a national sporting goods show at the Anaheim Convention Center, and he wanted to come over and learn about racquetball.
And I just showed a good shot of you around 1965 playing a form of racquetball. Well, the court was built in '65, a private court here in San Diego.
Yes, that particular court was... we've done all the research on it. Was the first private court ever built in the United States to play racquetball on, and I don't even think there had been one for handball. And that court is there today, and as people drive Mission Valley, they can look right above the rim of the stadium to the north, and they'll see a brown building below the houses with a glass window, and that court is still there today.
How do you feel having virtually brought a game into existence?
Well, Fred, I can't take all that credit. At the time, at that first tournament, it was
first champion, wrote the rules,
right.
The first big name in racquetball.
Well,
I mean, you are the father of the sport.
Well, I was kind of at the right place at the right time, you might say. We didn't name the sport until 1969. It was named by the name came up with a name you may remember, Bob McInerney. He was executive director of Bob Breitberg's Hall of Champions,
sure.
The first one, and we were trying to name the sport, and all kinds of names went up, paddle tennis, paddleball, and everything, and finally Bob said, he leaned forward, I'll never forget, and he said, why don't we call it racquetball? It's got a racket and it's got strings. And I said, Bob, it's a great name, put it in motion. He goes, no, you tell him. I insisted he tell him, and he did, and it won by acclamation, and then we spent about 30 minutes deciding on whether to spell it racket, C-K-E-T, or with the French spelling with a Q. We finally decided on the one word with a Q.
What happened to racquetball?
Well, racquetball in the first 12 years went to about 12 million players. It was an unbelievable, phenomenal growth accompanied by facilities and everything else.
I know because I invested in courts in Yuma, and I did the first broadcast in racquetball here in San Diego
That's
at the
correct.
National Championships, and then the first coast-to-coast broadcast on PBS at King's Court.
That's correct.
And I was totally enthusiastic about it.
It was fun. And the reason was you could watch the game. It wasn't as fast, so the rallies were longer. And at the time, the reason for the popularity in the game, Fred, was that even the beginner had as much fun as the pro, because everybody could play it. And then a couple of things happened. One was that the court facilities, the insurance went up, liability insurance went up, San Diego Gas Electric went up, and then so they let the ball get faster. And when they let the ball get faster, and then they let the rackets get bigger, there was no more rally, and it took the non-athletic person out of the game.
And it took TV out of the game, too,
Absolutely.
because you couldn't follow the ball.
Couldn't follow the ball.
A tiny ball going 130 miles an hour?
You couldn't even see it when you were there live, and that's the way it is today, and that's been one of the major reasons for its demise. And in fact, there's a resurgence going on now, big resurgence, in the game of paddleball, back to where we all started, because there's a longer rally and people have more fun.
Well, Dr. Budd made front pages everywhere during the height of the racquetball craze. This is Racket World with a picture of you, Athlete of the Year in racket sports. That was 1978.
Yep, I was very proud to receive that award.
And then there's Racquetball, spelled correctly.
That's right.
Cover photo in 1979. Dr. Budd, the legend continues. Meanwhile, you're practicing dentistry, and you get involved with Grossmont Hospital and anesthetics insofar as dentistry is concerned, and become the chief of staff for dentistry at Grossmont Hospital.
Well, that was a couple of years out of my life that I got a couple of programs started, both at Grossmont Hospital and El Cajon Hospital, which was a program of doing dentistry under general anesthesia. I had a lot of training in that in school because the dean of our school did it, and he picked me to assist him for 2 years. So then when I got out of school, I continued with that work at those 2 hospitals and did that for a number of years.
Have a lot of pictures I want to show. Briefly, court opening of one of your own courts in Mesa, Arizona. You had courts in El Cajon and Del Mar locally, and 7 courts overall, and this was the opening of the court in Mesa, Arizona.
Yeah, that's just a typical logo that we had on the wall. I think one of the finest ones we had was right off of Villa de Valle in Del Mar, and which now the building has been converted, but we built it originally.
And Bud, as you have explained to me, it's all about people. It's Earl Faison and Charlie Powell in 1995 with your daughter Shannon. People you've met at the Hall of Champions, people that you've met at various functions that you like very much.
Well, there's no question about that, Fred. I'm asked many times what was your greatest thrill, or what was the best tournament you ever won, or what do you remember the most? And the thing I really remember, and that's why I bought some of these pictures, was the journey. I was 2 years ahead of Charlie, but we went through school together, traveled together, and Earl Faison, both members of the Hall of Fame. And it was just met some wonderful people.
2 great badminton players, Joe Alston, former FBI agent, who lives in Solana Beach now, yourself, and Dr. Dave Freeman, a storied neurosurgeon and a great man and the best badminton player who ever lived.
Yes, probably.
And a great tennis player when he was a kid.
Probably the greatest racket player who ever lives, and was certainly, if I had an idol, it would be Dave. Joe and I are still very good friends. Dave has passed on now, but he could do it all in every sport. And I played a lot of badminton, and they were such good friends of mine.
A Hall of Champions event. Randy Jones, Ben Press, our tennis friend, who's the smallest gentleman there. Dick Enberg, who's been on the show along with Ben. And, of course, Dr. Bud Muehleisen.
Right. You know, those are the greatest get-togethers, and we have so much fun before it starts, talking and renewing. I even remember talking to Trammell this last year and wishing him well in Detroit. And it's just a great get-together with these guys and talking about old times.
Another wonderful guy from Pacific Beach who's been on this program, Bob Skinner, and Dr. Bud at a function.
I brought some of these because they'll be familiar to people in San Diego. I just can't tell you how humble some of these guys are. Bob, for example, just a great guy. Just a wonderful guy.
And his son is still coaching in the big leagues. Was a pretty good catcher. Archie Moore, who was one of our early guests on the show and a dear friend of myself and my family, and the late Archie Moore and Bud, and he challenged you to ping pong. Again, you're a racket sports guy.
One night at one of these functions, Archie said, well, you may be good in racquetball, he says, but I can beat you in table tennis. So I said, well, maybe we'll go see it. And he had me over to his house one day, and we had a lot of fun playing table tennis and pool. We shot some pool, too.
Here's the champ, Kenny Norton, who beat Ali in 1973 at the Sports Arena, the biggest fight we've ever had locally. And again, I was involved as a ring announcer, and Kenny had a terrible automobile accident several years later, which slowed his life. His son became a linebacker for San Francisco, and a very good pro player and a wonderful guy, too. And here's a man you grew up near and with. And
I think people will recognize him. Ted lived across the street at University Heights, and he remembered everything with little stories. That was a great time I had talking with him that night, and felt very honored. I've been with him a couple of times. And
how do you feel about the terrible stories about his body?
I don't even want to go there, Fred. I think it's ridiculous.
I'm laughing with disgust. Not
ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
And Dr. Bud and his family.
That's
Shannon, Kimberly, Dr. Bud, Cindy, your wife, Craig, your son. He's been with the CHP, Craig on the right, for 25 years or so.
Yes, he has. And there's daughter Karen right in front of him. And that's really the first family portrait we've ever had, and that was taken after Kimberly's high school graduation. She's now a junior in college.
Tell us about your interest in girls softball. You had a couple CIF titles to your name.
Well,
were you coaching gratis for the Grossmont?
Well, it all started with
district?
daughter Sharon.
Okay.
Shannon, pardon me. She was a very, very good player. She was a catcher, and it started with Bobby Sox and then her 4 years in high school. And so she went on to be a college scholarship, and then I moved on from high school, went over and coached 1 year at Grossmont College, and I still attend some of the national tournaments in Oklahoma City.
But quick questions, quick answers. We don't have much time. What was San Diego when you were growing up as a kid in North Park? What are we today? What should we be tomorrow?
Wow, it's tough, Fred. It was. I think that I grew up in the right time. I know it was a very, very safe time to grow up, and we talk about it all the time. Loved what it would be. We'd love to see that return with more safety in this town.
Who are you?
I'm just a guy, Fred, that takes them one day at a time and tries the best that I can and do whatever I'm doing at the time.
Best thing you've ever done?
Help people.
Favorite spot in San Diego?
Any of our beautiful golf courses. That's my avid hobby.
What haven't you done that you would still like to do, Bud?
I don't think anything, Fred. I think if I had it to do all over, I've lived a charmed and blessed life. I've been fortunate and blessed with good health, haven't missed a day of work, and I just love my life, what it's been like.
Bud Muehleisen, most impressive person you've ever met?
Dr. Dave Freeman.
Oh,
and
yes.
I've met a lot of dignitaries, but he was quite a man.
Secret of your success in dentistry, in sports?
I think it's been that I've tried to give back more than I've taken from it and helping people. I taught for years in racquetball too, and to see so many players go on to be national champions, you can't put a figure on that.
So it's important to give back to this community too.
Absolutely.
10 seconds on what you deeply believe in.
I have a deep belief in God, Fred, and the golden rule and people. I love them.
How do you want to be remembered by this community?
That I was a good guy and that I probably gave back a lot more than I took.
His name is Dr. Bud Muehleisen. What a guy. The inventor of racquetball, or the father of it at least. My name is Fred Lewis, for the San Diego Foundation, of course, for the San Diego Historical Society. We'll see you soon right here on ITV on the Heart of San Diego. Videotapes of this and other historic programs are made available to schools and colleges and to our viewers by calling the San Diego Historical Society at 619-232-6203. The Heart of San Diego is brought to you by the San Diego Historical Society, where our history comes alive, and the San Diego Foundation, the Center for Charitable Giving.